This is Agriculture Today, and I'm Samantha Bennett with the K-State Radio Network. We're kicking off this Wednesday's program with K-State faculty member in the Department of Animal Sciences and Industry, Karol Fike. Karol joins us to discuss a program that she has helped in facilitating in the last 5 years for students at K-State called the Feedlot Bootcamp. She shares that the program gives interested students the opportunity to network with and learn from feedlot professionals across the state. We're also joined by one of our friends from the Kansas FSA, Tonya Ackerman. Tonya shares insight on upcoming deadlines and her excitement for the upcoming Women Managing the Farm Conference. We end with this week's Beef Cattle Institute's Ask the Experts. This week, we are joined by K-State experts Brad White, Bob Larson, and Brian Lubbers for a discussion on whether genetics or the environment play a bigger role in replacement heifer development. That and more is coming up ahead on Agriculture Today. This is Agriculture Today. We are joined now by faculty member in the Animal Science Department here at K-State. Her name is Karol Fike, and she is joining us today to speak about the Feedlot Bootcamps that she helps put on every year, as well as the benefit of having ag interns, but also K-State interns potentially, Karol. So we'll get into that. But first and foremost, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to visiting about the programs that we have here at K-State.
Some incredible programs. And like I said, we're focusing on the Feedlot Bootcamps that you've been a part of putting together. So tell us a bit about these.
So the K-State Feedlot Bootcamp and teaching program, this is the 5th year of its completion. The one in 2023 here was the 5th consecutive year of the program. And it started was the idea primarily of Dr. Pete Anderson, who is with Midwest PMS, a nutritional consulting business that primarily services feedlots and some dairies. And one of the most common things that we've all known existed, but he hears that the feedlots that they consult with have needs for are talented young people that can help with their needs of running those businesses and operations and want to have interest in being in leadership or management roles, assistant management roles, hopefully from a long-term career path. And so how we better connect students with the opportunities that exist, educate them about the possibilities and the scope of those businesses and the need for trained young professionals in that industry. And so that's where it really started. And we have a lot of industry supporters as well that have feedlots that are clients. So, for example, Zoetis is one of our major sponsors, animal health company, as well as many other feedlots and some other allied industry supporters that have been a part of supporting this endeavor and helping students make connections with the feedlot world in Kansas.
Wonderful. Students that go through this program, they go out and visit these feedlots, right? But it's not just they're observing, they're learning and actively doing so, right?
Yes. So the Feedlot Bootcamp is about, we go from a Monday evening to a Thursday midday. So what is that? About a 3-day pretty intensive experience that has classroom components in addition to visits at the feedlots. And then in the evenings, there's 2 evening networking dinners, one that's with one of our primary sponsors, Zoetis, and then the other one is an evening networking dinner, and that one's sponsored by Rabo AgriFinance, in which this year, for the first time, we had it as a speed interviewing kind of session where we had many feedlot managers and human resources people from probably over 30 different feedlots. So, the ultimate goal is for making these connections and these relationships as well as training and preparing them for potentially an internship or a job opportunity, depending on where they're at in their time in college, so that we cultivate for the next steps and not just, go out and visit and that was nice, but that the steps of going further and having an internship experience or a job are cultivated. And those interviewing and those networking sessions are an important part of that as well.
For sure. And I know you said this is the 5th year that you've had students come through. So how many students has that been cumulative? And have you seen any of those impacts? Have they, resulted in jobs a lot of times for these students afterwards?
If I did my calculations correctly, and I was just putting some of this data together here recently with our most recent completion here a couple weeks ago, we've had just over 100 students that have participated in those 5 years. In the past couple of years, Dr. Anderson from Midwest PMS has also had conversations with some folks from West Texas A&M and Oklahoma State State and one from Fort Hays State. So we had a handful of students. We had 17 from K-State this year, and then be 7 from Oklahoma State, West Texas A&M, and Fort Hays State. But we've had, 100 and some students complete. We've had many more apply to be part of the program, but we keep it at around 20, give or take, by a few, just to make it so that there's definitely the ability to really see and learn and have the conversations, not have it be too big that it's difficult to have those close relationships and those kind of things. And certainly we've had a lot of interest from the students. And so this year, for example, and I think if we look at over the course of the full 5 years of it, it's upwards of 96%, I believe, that in a survey immediately after they complete the boot camp that indicate that they are interested in an internship or a full-time job within the feedlot. Now, how many that we get to follow through with that? We have had certainly a lot of success in students completing internships, and then some of those with internships maybe have gone into full-time roles within feedlots, and then some of them in allied industry or definitely in the beef industry. They have certainly a substantial interest in the beef industry, and maybe that is sometimes with some of our allied industry supporters or a handful that have gone on to veterinary school and want to become feedlot veterinarians. But the primary driver is, hopefully people that are interested in being in assistant management type of roles eventually long term, and we've had some success in doing that. I think moving the needle is the goal, and I think we're moving the needle in positive ways.
Absolutely. Taking, successful and very smart students and putting them in positions to where they can follow up and make impact in the industry. What a great opportunity that is. So I also, while we had you in the studio today, I wanted to kind of ask you about the benefit of having interns in agriculture. And I think, producers tuning in, they might not think, I don't need an intern, but what are some of the benefits of actually having an intern on the farm and having them help out?
Yeah, well, there certainly can be a lot of different benefits. If we look at it from a big picture and from my perspective in working with young people in college for a few decades now, it's not anything new that we all know that as a population, people are coming more and more removed from agriculture, right? And less of the population involved and directly involved in agriculture. And so that's reflected in our students that are coming into the College of Agriculture and in the Department of Animal Sciences. But amongst a significant portion of those students, whether they had some touch points with food animals or agriculture through 4-H and FFA, or coming from suburbia or urban settings, there's a significant portion of those students that maybe haven't had the opportunity to be part of animal agriculture, but have an interest, have a desire to learn and grow. And so while we certainly also have students that come from farms and ranches and have desire to go, into those career paths, we have this other population of students that have that desire and interest. And I think when we can cultivate that, we have examples upon examples where, they maybe start working at some of our animal units that are part of Kansas State University to gain some of those skills and knowledge, and in the classroom, be part of something like a boot camp. And when those opportunities are given, we pretty soon can have a portion of those students that become real supporters and real integrally involved in animal agriculture coming from an urban and suburban background. And so I think, that's part of what we're responsible for and have a hand in, and we want to try to make happen. But certainly, those connections between the classroom and gaining that skills and knowledge and insight and confidence by going and doing is really where we help those students flourish and I think retain them in the agriculture field in their longer-term careers.
Absolutely. Encouraging that interest and hoping that, like you said, it flourishes and it leads to success in the industry. Incredible. And when it comes to looking for a good intern, what are some of the things that producers out there or anyone tuning in that, is involved in cultivating an internship program? What should they look out for, and why are K-State students a great example of what to look for in a student intern?
Yeah, I like that question, and I get that question a lot, a fair amount from sometimes producers that are looking for people to help them, on their operations, maybe especially at busy times, or are interested in, cultivating the skills of the next generation. And, sometimes that comes in the form of send me a good intern. And I usually respond by saying, well, you need to be part of that selection, really. And so it's really about the right fit and the right relationship. So there's a lot of good young people with desire, with work ethic, with knowledge, with skills, but the desire to learn more. But that relationship with that mentor and what are their expectations, right? They can have a variation in expectations of the knowledge and the skills and the insight that they're coming into that internship experience with, and then also what they need to have accomplished from that intern during that internship period.
We're interrupting our conversation with Karol Fike from the Department of Animal Sciences and Industry here at K-State for a quick break. But when we return, we'll wrap up with Karol and then be joined by one of our friends from the Kansas Farm Service Agency, Tonya Ackerman, and then conclude today's programming with our Beef Cattle Institute's Ask the Experts. This week, that fun group discusses whether or not they think genetics or environment has more influence on replacement heifer development. If you're listening to us on the radio and are afraid you're going to miss out on our next segment because you're reaching your destination or have something else that you're having to switch to quickly here, don't forget that Agriculture Today programming is also available as a podcast. Our podcast is easily accessible on all podcasting platforms, including our website, agtoday.net, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. You can simply search us on any podcasting platform, Agriculture Today, Kansas State, and we are more than likely to pop up, and you can follow us there. That way you can simply have us pop up in your regular feed on whatever platform you're using and listen to us more regularly that way. Once again, you can easily access that on agtoday.net or any podcasting platform by simply searching Agriculture Today, Kansas State. We're cutting to a short break now, but we'll be back with more ahead on Agriculture Today. Tuned back into Agriculture Today. We're returning now with Karol Fike. She is a faculty member in the Department of Animal Sciences and Industry here at K-State that helps with coordinating internships and career paths for students. We're picking back up on our conversation now with her insight on how to find the right intern.
What I usually say is let's put to paper what that farm, ranch, or production operations expectations are and what they envision as some of those roles and responsibilities that the student would have, what they want them to know or have some insight or experience with coming in before they even start, and then communicate that with our students. And then I think they need to be diligent. Then the mentors need to be diligent in really having the conversations to decide who is the best fit for what their needs are. And that can look different. It can look different for very similar operations. I know we have, K-State students in animal science and agriculture in general that have come with little to no experience, that have the ability to grow and to learn and be taught and listen, and then those that have had experience and are growing in their knowledge and that experience level. And so where that starting point is and where that end point is for their growth and knowledge and what they can contribute to an internship is going to vary. But I know that we have students that have desire, that have work ethic, that want to positively contribute to agriculture and animal agriculture in the state of Kansas.
What an opportunity for producers to tap into that. I guess, what is it, like energy is wasted on the youth because they just are so full of energy at this age. And it's such a time when they're just so excited to learn and get involved in the industry. So what an opportunity for a producer to bring them into their operation potentially and help the student in that way, but also help the operation.
Yeah. And like I said, I think it's really about the right fit and, sitting down and having conversations, that maybe just starts with a review of resume and phone conversations. And then I think a visit to the operation and an in-person real conversation about, somebody's backgrounds and mutual expectations. And I tell the students this all the time is, you need to have those detailed conversations about what those expectations are and be clear about what your own hopes and dreams are of what you want to learn, in those experiences. And because if there is frustration, it's usually because of unmet expectations, and unmet expectations usually come about because of not deep enough conversations. And so when those are had, we usually have very positive experiences on both sides.
Great tips there for sure, Carol. I appreciate all of the knowledge you're sharing with us. And I'm going to probe you a bit more for some more information. But if listeners are tuning in, if they're students or maybe parents of students, and they're thinking that, I think this student would really enjoy learning from the Feedlot Bootcamps, where can they learn more about them at?
So our Feedlot Bootcamp program is something that I manage at our K-State level, so I'm glad to visit individually with students or producers or feedlot operators, and I can be reached at Carol at KSU, that's KAROL, at ksu.edu. We have had a variety of times articles out in popular press about the program, and we have some information on our website at asi.kstate.edu as well. But probably most effectively, an individual conversation that I can visit with and share a little bit more detail about, how they might be interested in being involved in supporting the program.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, I'll link to all of that information as well in the show notes of today's show, which can be found on agtoday.net as always. But Carol, if also producers are looking for a K-State intern, can they feel free to reach out to you at any time as well for that situation, if it's even outside of the Feedlot Bootcamps?
Oh, certainly. That's something that in part of my roles in the Department of facilitating internships and career path opportunities, have conversations regularly with various businesses and organizations and individual producers about how we can help in that regard, and some of the things that we just talked about in terms of expectations and putting to paper about your operation and what your needs are and what your goals are, and then we can communicate with students and hopefully bring the groups together for a positive benefit on both sides.
Excellent. Well, Carol, this has been a great conversation, and I know it'll probably be one that listeners have enjoyed as well, hopefully, but I can't thank you enough for your time today and for all the insight you've provided.
Well, you're welcome. This has been a privilege, and we appreciate getting this information out there about the kind of things that we're doing. And again, it's about relationships, and we want to help people be successful and bring groups together in ways that are mutually beneficial, hopefully.
Once again, that was Karol Fike. She is a faculty member in the Department of Animal Sciences and Industry here at K-State, joining us for a conversation on her Feedlot Bootcamps that she helps put together, as well as the benefit of having maybe K-State students as interns. We are joined now by one of our friends from the Kansas FSA. Her name is Tonya Ackerman. So, Tonya, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Samantha.
Absolutely. So this is our first time chatting. I've talked with, obviously, plenty of folks from the FSA, but I'm happy to have you here and chatting with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So you wanted to start with some updates on the Dairy Margin Coverage Programming the FSA offers.
Yes, the Dairy Margin Coverage Program, or the DMC program as we call it. We are signing up for the 2023 program year, and that sign-up ends January 31st. So I wanted to mention that we need to get all of that taken care of and all those loose ends tied up by the end of the month.
Absolutely. Yeah, just several days here counting on. And then you wanted to continue on with, this is kind of a last minute thing, but it was announced Monday by Secretary Vilsack, a brand new program for the FSA. So let's get into that.
As Samantha said, Monday, Secretary Vilsack announced the Organic Dairy Marketing Assistance Program. This program will help small organic dairy farms that have faced a unique set of challenges and higher costs over the past several years as a result of the ongoing pandemic and drought conditions across the country. Many of these small organic dairies are struggling to stay in business, so this program will be a part of a broader network of assistance to help fill in that gap. Producers currently cannot sign up for that assistance program yet, but we wanted to let you know what's coming. More information will be provided by the county offices and the state office as details unfold, but assistance will be forthcoming.
Wonderful. So just a new program announced and something to look out for. And then continuing on, we have the Conservation Reserve Program, otherwise known as CRP. You folks at the FSA are really proud. You mentioned before we got on air here, 4th in the country, right, in terms of CRP?
That's right. We're very proud of that. We have the 4th number of CRP acres in the country. I just wanted to let all of our listeners know that we are expecting a general CRP sign-up this year because our Farm Bill requires a sign-up every year. The dates have not been announced, though, but it's normally early in the year, so stay tuned for details on general CRP sign-up. Also, continuous CRP sign-up is ongoing. And then in western Kansas, there's a project area for safe migratory bird CRP sign-up, and that ends February 17th.
So when it comes to continuous CRP and then just the normal CRP that we talk about, if producers tuning in aren't familiar with the difference between those, can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. The general CRP has a specific sign-up period, and it is ranked. So you will kind of put a bid in for your numbers. And with continuous, those are things that are not ranked that would get in, such as like a buffer strip.
Okay, wonderful. So just a little bit different in terms of how those programs are run. So key to know. Well, I know you wanted to continue and end with a great conference that is coming up, the Women Managing the Farm Conference. So let's hear a bit more about it.
Thank you. Yes, I am also on the executive committee for Women Managing the Farm Conference. It's being held in Manhattan at the Hilton Garden Inn on February 16th and 17th this year. We have 3 fantastic keynote speakers. We have Brandy Buzzard, who is an agricultural advocate. We have Adrienne de Sutter, who is a big promoter of mental health. And then we have Antonia Boryaka. She is a refugee from the Ukraine, and she works at K-State. There's going to be a lot of breakout sessions to discuss current topics. For the first time this year, we're offering a student rate versus just for the general public. So the student rate is $60. The registration includes both Thursday and Friday. And actually on Wednesday, you can come, Wednesday the 15th. We have additional sessions that are available for a nominal fee. And those sessions are over QuickBooks, farm safety, and drones. And during the conference, there's also a silent auction, and we like to raise money for scholarships so we can send women to the conference. And there's a lot of just networking opportunities, fun events on Thursday evening. Lunch and breakfast are provided both days. There's a lot of vendors. You can go look at the tables. And a lot of people go, we have women that are involved in the farm as absentee landowners. You know, they work alongside their husbands, women in careers in agriculture. We're hoping to have some more students this year. So we're really excited about our conference. It's been going for close to 20 years now, and we're very proud of that fact.
Yeah, that's incredible. And you mentioned students there, you know, giving them an opportunity for a discounted rate. What an awesome opportunity for them to get more plugged into women that are already established in agriculture and continuously learning as well. So a great networking opportunity for students.
Yes, it's a fantastic networking opportunity. You get to meet people, you know, from different parts of life, different parts of the state that you normally wouldn't meet, and get to make new friends. I went a few years ago, and I was just so excited about it. I just was so honored they got me on the committee. So
well, that's wonderful. So you also mentioned these new breakout sessions that you guys are doing, the additional ones, and one of those being drones. What a fun subject to cover.
I know. There is just a nominal fee on Wednesday if you want to come to those. The farm safety one is going to be at CanEquip in Wamego. The QuickBooks and the drone sessions will be there at the hotel at the Hilton Garden.
And if listeners are tuning in and they're thinking, well, I didn't know about this event, I need to come, where can they learn more or sign up?
You can go to womenmanagingthefarm.com. For all the details, it'll list all the breakout sessions. It will list all the speakers. And also you can register there as well.
So in terms of normal registration, we mentioned, students at $60. What do those fees look like for others?
At this point in time, it's $200 a person.
Excellent. Is that up to the day of for the event?
Yes, I believe so.
Incredible. Well, Tonya, I can't thank you enough for coming in today and sharing all this wonderful information with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Samantha. It's nice to be here.
Absolutely. Once again, that was Tonya Ackerman with the Kansas Farm Service Agency. She is the Conservation and Price Support Division Chief, joining us for an FSA update. We'll be back with more ahead on Agriculture Today. This is Agriculture Today. We're ending today's show with the Beef Cattle Institute's Ask the Experts. This week, we're joined by experts Brad White, Bob Larson, and Brian Lubbers.
Hi, welcome to Beef Cattle Institute's Ask the Experts, where our experts answer your questions. And happy to have two great experts with me today. I've got Dr. Brian Lubbers.
Hi.
And Dr. Bob Larson.
Hey, Brad.
So we're happy to have them because they get a chance to answer your questions, and we always appreciate when you send questions in. If you have questions for us, you can email us at bci@ksu.edu. Our format is I ask one of the listener questions, and these guys get a chance to respond. Based on their responses, they get up to 10 points. Today's listener question comes to us, and I think is a really good one, and asks, what has more influence on replacement heifers, genetics or environment? Brian?
I know I'm going to lose points for this. I've just accepted it. But I'm going to say it's both, but I will lean towards environment. I think the environment that you raise a heifer in, and that includes the nutritional management that animal has, the disease prevention, all of those things, and they add up. They're cumulative, right? And so there's just a lot more of them than there is to purely just say genetics. So I am going to stick with, my answer is going to be, it's the environment that has the most significant impact on raising a replacement heifer.
Okay, environment and some of the disease management, some of the other exposures you're talking about, and nutrition.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, 7 points for Brian. Bob?
Okay, so I may lose more points than you because I'm going to say I agree with Brian that I think it is more environment, but it is important to think about the role that genetics does play. For instance, I don't want to save a replacement heifer out of a cow that has poor structure, such as poor structure over udder, feet and leg structures, those types of things. Any indication, and with some of my purebred, I might have some information of, stayability, heifer pregnancy rate, those kinds of things. So I want to use those tools. And the reason I agree with Brian is if I had a heifer that had a lot of the good genetic traits, but either she was born really late or I didn't manage her well, all those genetic traits get trumped by the environment.
Okay, great response. And I think you're right. Those things are important, and it can overwhelm the genetics. However, the implication behind this question is at some point we know which is a good replacement heifer and maybe which is a bad. So, Brian, I'm going to go back to you, and I'm going to ask you, how are we going to, at the end of the process, determine which was good and which was bad for our replacement heifers? What's your metrics?
Which was good, meaning environment or genetics? Or?
No. How do we know if the heifer turned out well or not?
Yeah. I'm going to steal Bob's answer because I know he's going to say, did she bring me a live calf, right? So having a live productive calf is the ultimate metric for I raised a good or adequate replacement heifer for my herd.
Okay, Brian's moved up to 8 points. Bob, you're currently sitting at 7.
I'm going to build on his answer because it's not only that she brings me a live calf, but she has her calf early in the calving season. I want her to conceive very early, and I want her bred and to conceive for her second pregnancy early. So blue ribbon heifer had a good, healthy calf that lives to weaning, and she's pregnant to give birth during the first 21 days of her second breeding season. She's my blue ribbon.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great answer, Bob, because it goes well beyond, did she get pregnant? Did she have her first calf? It's does she stay in the herd because it takes a while to come back. So we said environment's the most important. What are the genetic attributes you'd care about most if you were raising replacement heifers?
I would say age at puberty, feet and legs, and udder conformation.
See, I like Bob's answer, but I think when I said it depends, my thought was it's the match between genetics and environment that's important, right? So I can have a high genetic potential heifer in the wrong environment is not going to do well. And I can up, what's the right word I'm looking for? I can bring a marginal heifer up with the right environment. And so I'm not going to say there's one specific trait because we deal with too many, our audience is too broad. It's the match between those two that really makes a good heifer.
Excellent answer, Brian. Brian really crystallized it there. It's not a either or. It is how well that heifer matches the environment based on her genetics, not just the environment today, but the environment of her future when she stays on that operation. So Brian ends up with 9 points. Bob, you ended up with 7.
I agree on this one. He actually beat me.
He did. So thank you for joining us. As always, if you have questions for us, you can send us an email at bci@ksu.edu.
Once again, those were K-State experts Brad White, Bob Larson, and Brian Lubbers concluding today's show. We'll be back with more tomorrow on Agriculture Today.